I
UN
declare
General Assembly
the
adopts
10th
resolution in Gaza calling for ceasefire and release of hostages. 10 countries voted against, including Israel, the US, the Czech Republic, and Austria. In Kenya, President William Ruto pointed out that they are out of danger over indebtedness, phrasing his economic policy despite public anger at the hikes and subsidy cuts. In Egypt, ballot counting began as the presidential election polls closed after 3 days of voting. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Razabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly on Tuesday to demand a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza in a strong demonstration of global support for ending the Israel-Hamas war. The vote also shows the growing isolation of the United States and Israel. After the United States on Friday vetoed a Security Council resolution calling for a humanitarian ceasefire, Arab and Islamic countries convened an emergency session of the 193-member General Assembly to vote on a resolution to the same effect. The General Assembly vote reflects the growing isolation of the United States, which refuses to join demands for a ceasefire. More than the United Nations or any other international organization, the United States sees itself as the only entity capable of persuading Israel to accept a ceasefire, as it is closely allied and its largest arms supplier. The adopted text called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire compliance by all parties with international law, in particular the protection of civilians, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, and humanitarian access. The Prime Minister of Palestine, Mohammed Tayyip, condemned the support of the United States to Israel in the midst of the growing number of deaths in the Gaza Strip. He also criticized the position of Israel that seeks to divide the unity of the Palestinian people by separating the occupied territories. Let's listen.
We condemn anyone who encourages Israel to continue its killings. We closely monitor the United States policy marred by chaos and international confusion in their support for Israel. While claiming to be against the killing of civilians, the United States obstructs the Security Council resolutions to halt the war. This unconditional support for Israel occurs without Israel adhering to the rules of international humanitarian law. Israel continues to withhold our funds, imposing unjustified and unlawful deductions with its sole political aim to isolate Gaza from the rest of the Palestinian territories. We reject these deductions and actions. I am aware that every penny is crucial for you, my fellow employees, and for our people in the Gaza Strip. On behalf of the Cabinet, I say to you all, we are facing a test of unity. I commend you for your honorable stance against Israel's measures, whether related to prisoners or our people in the Gaza Strip. We will continue to do everything possible to secure our rights, including our funds.
In Lebanon, a senior Hamas official said U.S. President Joe Biden realizes Israeli military operation is a crazy act after Biden made comments that Israel risks losing international support because of indiscriminate bombing in Gaza.
The only explanation I have is that the resistance by its action and the Palestinian people by its steadfastness pushed Biden to realize that the Israeli military operation is a crazy act. The repercussions will be catastrophic on the entity and on the results of elections in which Biden might lose his seat in the White House.
Speaking about the men who were detained and shot lying in the streets while stripped to their underwear, that said that these are crimes similar to what the Nazis did to the Jews and what the Americans did at the Abu Ghraib prison near Baghdad during the U.S. occupation of Iraq.
This scene that the occupation is an attempt to break our will and to show his power over the people. Don't you remember this picture? This is what the American, who is a supporter of the occupation in Abu Ghraib prison, how they abused the Iraqi people. These pictures are the same images that we see today at the hands of this Nazi occupation. They are the extension of the same culture from the American administration to the Zionist entity and vice versa.
The Yemeni armed forces claimed responsibility for the attack on the Norwegian tanker Asrina and stated that they will not hesitate to attack any ships that violate the above statements. They also said that they will not hesitate to attack any ship that violates the above statements, recalling that the Yemeni armed forces reported over the weekend that as long as Israel does not allow humanitarian aid to enter the Gaza Strip, they will attack any vessel traveling to the ports of that country.
The naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a qualitative military operation against the Norwegian ship Astrinda, which was loaded with oil and headed to the Israeli entity. It was targeted with a suitable naval missile.
وقد تم استهدافها بصاروخ بحري مناسب. إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية
The Yemeni armed forces will not hesitate to target any ship that violates what was stated in the previous statements. The Yemeni armed forces confirmed that they continue to prevent all ships of all nationalities heading to Israeli ports from navigating in the Arab and Red Seas until they bring in the food and medicine that our steadfast brothers in the Gaza Strip need.
In Palestine, Israel armed forces have begun pumping seawater into tunnels under the Gaza Strip. This action is part of Israel's ongoing offensive in the Gaza Strip to defeat the Palestinian resistance led by Hamas. This act concerns Palestinian authorities as it will potentially lead to the destruction of natural water wells, raising serious concerns about the humanitarian and environmental repercussions. The flooding of tunnels in the conflict zone like Gaza has serious humanitarian implications, especially if it disrupts access to essential resources such as water. Gaza already faces a difficult water situation with limited access to clean and safe drinking water. These actions jeopardize civilian infrastructure and basic needs such as water supply and are considered a violation of international humanitarian law. In Palestine, the people of Gaza started using babur, kerosene in light of the siege, and needed a ration of fuel and gas from the Strip. Citizens of the Gaza Strip have returned to using their jet babur. This babur has been used for many years, and with the development of life, it has been dispensed with due to the presence of gas, diesel, and electricity to heat water. In these difficult days that the residents of the Gaza Strip are going through, they have returned to use babur due to the outage of gas, diesel, and electricity, and that there is a great demand from citizens to buy it. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English in different formats, new dates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, confirmed his attendance to the face-to-face meeting with his counterpart from Guyana on Thursday in San Vicente and the Grenadines to discuss the territorial disputes over the Esquiva, Guyana, a territory seized in 1899 by the United Kingdom, and the Guyana refuses to settle the controversy through the Geneva Agreement. The report with Madeleine Garcia.
In this same scenario, in August, in his program with Maduro Mas, the Venezuelan president invited the president of Guyana, Irfan Ali, to meet face-to-face to resolve the controversy over the Guyana Esquiva through the dialogue established in the Geneva Agreement, 4 months after so much refusal by the Guyanese government, with the support of Salah CARICOM and the president of Brazil, Lula da Silva, a step was taken.
I say we have done it. We have achieved face-to-face dialogue. It is a great achievement of the people of Venezuela, of the will of the exercise of the sovereignty of Venezuela. It is one of the first great achievements of the historic step of December 3rd, because this is resolved by talking face-to-face. I say that.
But when and why was the dialogue of the Geneva Agreement interrupted? In 2015, the U.S. transnational company ExxonMobil acquired a world-famous oil field in maritime territory pending the demarcation between Guyana and Venezuela. In 2018, the Guyanese government made a move that Venezuela did not expect. It unilaterally took the case to the International Court of Justice and was endorsed by the Secretary General of the United Nations.
The action of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, was erroneous. He exceeded his functions contained in the Geneva Agreement by choosing or supporting, in one way or another, to judicialize the case without having exhausted the mechanisms previously foreseen for a peaceful solution, such as mediation, good office, or conciliation, which are typified in Article 33 of the UN Charter and also included in Article 4 of the Geneva Agreement.
It's absurd that the United Nations, whose role is to promote peace, to promote dialogue, to promote agreements, to promote reconciliation, has acted in such a way that its behavior, as well as that of the International Court of Justice, has caused the conflict to increase and to aggravate. And that is the role of these institutions. The role is rather to seek solutions that are beneficial to peace and to agreement between countries.
Article 33 of the United Nations Charter states that any dispute which may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security shall be settled primarily by negotiation, mediation, and other peaceful means, and that the Council may invite the parties to use such means to settle their dispute. The Statute of the International Court of Justice also states that the countries in dispute must agree to its jurisdiction. They cannot force a state to recognize it, but a phone call changed everything.
On Friday, I spoke with the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, with whom we have more difference because of the actions that he has taken outside the Geneva Agreement, and I explained to him very well the position of Venezuela with the statute of the International Court of Justice in hand, the position of Venezuela since 1945 on the non-recognition of the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice to settle the controversy of the Essequibo Guyana, and I asked him to play a positive role as Secretary General of the United Nations to resume the dialogue, and he committed to me that he would do so.
Vice President Delcy Rodriguez explained what the Geneva Convention can achieve and what the International Court of Justice cannot.
The defense of the Geneva Agreement of 1966, the only legal instrument that allows a peaceful, political, practical, and satisfactory solution for both sides, includes the concept of justice for both sides, which is definitely excluded in solution through the International Court of Justice.
The meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Thursday will be an expression of the Geneva Agreement. Venezuela will put on the table a formula for joint development based on the Petrocaribe experience.
In Haiti, court clerks begin a new deadline on indefinite strike to demand the compliance of agreements signed with the government in 2017. During the day, protesters demanded the respect of the rights of all employees and claimed the removal of discrimination in wages. Court clerks are advocating for a rise of their fees and the approval of the statute for notaries, which could allow them to enjoy other benefits. Meanwhile, the National Association of Haitian Court Clerks informed that the strike will affect the 18 national jurisdictions. Thousands of demonstrators rallied in Belgium Tuesday demanding better police services, salaries, and living conditions. The protests in the central took place during the EU negotiations on the New Stability and Growth Pact, which aims to limit the member states' debt and deficits. Nations try to spend their way out of the crisis will instead implement a series of economic policies such as budget cuts and tax increases. However, critics say the policies known as austerity won't work. The European Trade Union Confederation, which represents 45 million members, claims the plan of reinstatement of the Stability and Growth Pact will force 14 member states to cut a combined €45 billion from the budget next year alone. European inflation fell more than expected in November to 2.4%, the lowest in more than 2 years, bringing some relief to households hit by the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic and the conflict in Ukraine.
People deserve to live in dignity, to have decent salaries, to have good working conditions, and they are not getting it from most governments in Europe. And there's austerity measures being imposed, and we demand fair taxation so that there is enough money to go to the public services, and all European citizens, all European workers can live with dignity.
We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. To stay connected and informed with teleSUR, final show break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Tuesday, Kenya is out of the danger of over-indebtedness and claimed his president, William Ruto, president's economic policy despite polling anger and tax hikes and subsidy cuts. A country of 53 million inhabitants, the economic powerhouse of East Africa, danger of over-indebtedness, said the head of state in Nairobi at a public ceremony marking 60 years of independence from the former British colony. The Kenyan economy was severely shaken by COVID, followed by the shockwaves of the war in Ukraine and the historic droughts in the Horn of Africa, resulting in empty coffers, dollar inflation, and a plunging currency. The Gaza service in public debt has risen sharply with the collapse of a Kenyan currency, and in June 2024, Kenya must also dollars in eurobonds. After his election in August 2022, William Ruto introduced a series of new taxes going against his campaign promises. Opposition protests against these new tax measures were organized between March and July, resulting in dozens of deaths.
Past year, together, we have made the right choices, sometimes taken very difficult and painful decisions to steer Kenya back from the edge of a catastrophic cliff of debt distress and move our country in a new direction. Inflation is now 6.8%, down from a high of 9.2% a year ago. In the last months, our GDP has grown at a rate of 5.4%, making Kenya the 29th fastest growing economy in the world, according to the World Bank. There is no question about it. What we have done together, the price we have paid together, and the sacrifices we have made together have rescued our country from an economic catastrophe.
Ballot counting began in Egypt as presidential election polls closed on Tuesday after 3 days of voting. Polling stations closed their doors at 9 p.m. local time in an election where 4 candidates have run for the nation's presidency. The National Election Authority reported an unprecedented turnout and said the results will be announced next Monday. According to officials, sitting President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is expected to win by a landslide despite Egypt being gripped by various crises, including the Israel-Hamas war in neighboring Gaza and in the country's worst-ever economic crisis. Al-Sisi is running against 3 relative unknown political figures: Farid Farahand, leader of the left-leaning Egyptian Social Democratic Adel Sanad Yamana from the century-old but relatively marginal party WAFT, and Hassan Omar from the Republican People's Party. If elected, this will be Sisi's 3rd and final term in office. According to an election official, some citizens in the Democratic Republic of Congo's biological displaced by the conflict with the M23 rebel group will not be able to vote in the general election scheduled for December 20.
In Rutshuru, we have enrolled more or less 10% of the expected voters, haven't we? And we have no candidates, so the conditions are not right for opening the polling stations. In Masisi, I think it's around 1%, so there's no reason to open polling stations. The registration was done in the camps for the displaced, but these displaced were from Rutshuru, weren't they? And you know that Rutshuru has no candidate, so there's no reason to open polling stations. It's there because there's no candidate.
As they do every year, millions of faithful Catholics went to the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe to offer a favor of express their gratitude. The most updated figure shows that more than 4 million pilgrims have visited the place. From Mexico City, Daniel Rosa brings us a story.
Neither the cold nor the distance dim their faith. They are the faithful who every year make a pilgrimage from different parts of Mexico to the capital city to visit the Dark Virgin, as she is known.
We come to thank the Virgin. She loves us. She is our mother. Otherwise, to whom else are we going to ask for favors if not her?
It is not difficult to find those who walk the last few meters on their knees as penance or gratitude. This is the case of Maria.
I ask for my children's health, that my children are well, that my resolutions for the year will come true, and thank God my dreams have come true. Thank God they are coming true, and thanks to the Virgin.
Don Sergio is one of the millions of people who went to the Marian temple. He has to use a cane, and even so, he made the pilgrimage carrying his image of the Guadalupe, which has been with him for 26 years.
I come to thank God and our Most Holy Mother, the Virgin of Guadalupe, for all the time she has given us life and because I am well at this moment, for all the things we have gone through. A year ago I couldn't see, but now, thanks God, the evidence is that here I am at the feet of our Most Holy Mother.
Sergio is not the only one who overcame his physical handicap. Juan Carlos lives without a leg, but he traveled 100 kilometers on a bicycle to bring his son to see the Virgin of indigenous features to express their gratitude.
The fact of being alive, healthy, breathing, and being here with my son, living a unique experience. For him, it is his first time, and for me, I have been coming for several years to give thanks to the Virgin Mary.
Rebecca comes dressed as a chinelo, a traditional dancer from the state of Morelos, to thank joyfully for the health of her granddaughter.
She suffered from seizures. She was in critical condition 7 years ago. She was even intubated. She didn't give us any hope, but here she is.
Catholic tradition says that the Virgin Mary with indigenous features appeared to a peasant named Juan Diego and asked for a construction of a temple on his behalf, which was built after Fray Juan de Zumárraga saw the image of Jesus' mother in the cloak of Hayate that is now venerated by millions of faithful Mexicans. And that is part of the Guadalupean devotion that the Mexican people show towards who they consider to be their mother. Every year they come to express their gratitude or to ask for favors, and this has been no exception. They sang her the Mañanitas, and now it is time to return to their places of origin.
Daniel Rosas, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
And we have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.